Alright, so if you are making a game that has point and click movement, you might want to have some feedback when you click the mouse. And so I have this project here that we've been working on through a few videos where you can click to move, waiting for it to get into game mode. You can click to move, you can right click to attack, and we want some feedback on where the player clicks so that we actually see that where it's going. And it's just a little bit of juice that makes the game feel better. So what we are going to do is, first thing we're going to do is make a prefab object that is going to be spawned where you click it, and it's just going to be a sprite renderer with a bunch of sprites on it, and it's going to animate, and then at the end of the animation it's going to destroy itself. Okay. So what I'm using here is a fire explosion sprite pack, or sorry, a sprite sheet. And sprite sheets are great because they save space, they're efficient, so you're going to get a little mini lesson on how to slice sprite sheets. So I do not want the entire sheet. I'm going to click the sprite sheet, and then instead of single, I'm going to click multiple because there are multiple sprites in this one sheet. Then I'm going to go to the sprite editor. I'm going to cancel real quickly because I also want to change it to point filter because I know that these are like pixelated graphics. And then I'm going to click apply, and we'll open up the sprite editor so that we can slice it, and then we can get selective sprites. So in order to slice, I'm going to click slice, the drop down. I'm not going to do automatic, although automatic does work a lot. I'm going to go by cell count, and I like doing cell count because most sprite sheets are set up this way. Just, some sprite sheets might have different resolutions for their sprites, but cell count usually is a good way to do it. So how many columns? We have 2, 4, 6, 8. We have 8 columns, and I believe we have 7 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 rows. Then I click slice. It's important that your pivot is in the center, otherwise it's going to offset where you click. So by pivot in the center, it means each separate sprite, where do we want the pivot, and we want the pivot to be in the center of those sprites. So I click slice, and great, now you can see I have all these separate sprites, right? Sorry, I'm going to click apply, and in our asset folder we can see, in this little preview, if you don't have the preview it might be hidden, you can just click this and the preview's there. We can see now that we have a bunch of sprites. Okay, and what I'm going to do is like a quick and easy one, just to give you an example. I'm going to take 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I'm going to create an animation. So I'm going to shift click to select all of them. I'm going to drag it into I'll drag it next to my player, why not? And then that'll bring up a dialog to make an animation. This animation is going to be click feedback. And really what this did was, 1, it made a game object, 2, it put a sprite renderer on it, 3, it put an animator on it, an animation controller, and it made the animation filled with all of these sprites that I just chose. So if I zoom in, I can't see it right now, but that might be because of order and layer. Yes, it is. So we'll say order and layer is 1. And we can see that this animation, gets big, and then it restarts. So what I might want to do is make it get small again. Since this is such a short animation, I don't think it's going to ruin it if we make it get small again. So if I play the animation, it gets big and then small. Right? If this is a little too big for you, it might be, we can go down to like 0.6, or or we can say at 1 full. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so now we have this object, right? And we could duplicate this object, and if we press play, it's just going to loop this animation clip over and over and over, right? And I can duplicate this and move it over here, and duplicate it and move it over here. But what we want to do is spawn it when we click on the world. Okay, so what I'm going to do is change the name of this object to be something like click prefab, and then I am going to drag it down into my prefabs folder, and it looks like I already have one, so I'll delete that one, and I'll drag this one down here, and now we have click prefab. And the great thing about prefabs is that you can drop them in other game objects and they can be instantiated. Okay, they're prefabrications. So I'm going to go to click to move, and looks like I already did it, but I will delete it, and we'll start from the top. So the way we are moving is we're saying if you click the left mouse button down and you're not hovering over a UI element, because we want to be able to click the skills and not move, then it shoots a raycast. We get the destination by screen to world point, the position of the mouse at that point, and then we move. Okay, so what we need is a public game object, and I'll just delete this and type it out. Public game object, this is our prefab, and we'll call it click prefab. Feedback for when the player clicks. Amazing. Okay, and what we are going to do down here, we already have destination. We are going to instantiate click prefab. I'll zoom in a little bit, might be easier to read. At destination dot position. Oh, at destination, and we'll say its rotation is quaternion dot identity, because we don't really care what rotation it comes in at. Well, we want it to be its original, which is not on the x-axis. That's important. Let's go back to Unity. We see our player script here, our click to move, and we see that it's missing click sprite. But it shouldn't be click sprite. It should be click prefab, right? So we'll wait for that to reload. There it is. And regardless, it's missing a click prefab. So I'm going to drag the click prefab into this game object. And now we'll press play, test it out. When I click, it spawns this prefab, which has a bunch of, it just has that sprite renderer and the animator on it. Okay, so we have a couple things that are problematic with this. One is that it's looping. We don't really want it to loop. We just want it to play once and then die. And two, it's not destroying. Okay, so fortunately for us, Unity has ways to do this pretty easily. So if we go to the animation clip itself in our assets folder, click feedback, we can turn off loop time. Now it's not looping. Now if we go to animator, and we need to actually choose the animator on the prefab, here it is, we have click feedback. So from entry, when it starts its life, it's going right into click feedback. Now, what we can do is we can add a behavior to it, which is really cool, and we'll call that destroy on exit. Okay, and destroy on exit, when we open it up, it already knows that it should inherit from state machine behavior. If yours doesn't, then you might want to change it to inherit from state machine behavior. Now we are all set up with these beautiful, beautiful functions that are called at specific times that are explained right here. So on state enter is called when a transition starts, and the state machine starts to evaluate the state. So remember, this script is on click feedback, the clip. So when we enter click feedback, we want to say destroy game object, no, lowercase game object. Sorry, I'm going to undo for a bit. I was pretty sure. Oh, animator. Oh, right. Because the animator, we want to know. We know what the animator is on. So what the animator is on, the game object attached to that, and destroy has an overload which allows us to give it a delay, and the delay is stateinfo.length, and that's amazingly helpful. Okay, so now if we go back, we go to our scene view, wait for it to reload, and we press play. Now it's going to spawn, and when it's done, it'll destroy itself. And now that helps us with garbage cleanup in our hierarchy. It also just looks a lot better than an infinitely looping feedback thing going on there. Okay? All right, so that was it. Thanks for stopping by.